Good evening, everybody. We've got Stellaris back. And I realize actually it's going to feel like it's been a while since there was Stellaris because, of course, it was Labor Day last week, and I decided to actually take the day off. One very sad reality I'm facing is that I really need a break from streaming, like a proper, I'm going to take a holiday sort of a break. And I don't know when I'm going to do it. I actually don't have a really good idea in terms of how to make that happen in a way that's sort of fair to the subscribers and sort of consistent with keeping some momentum to the stream. But one thing I can do to sort of at least keep myself going for a little bit longer is take holidays when they emerge. So this means if there is a holiday where I don't need to work, don't add extra work by doing a stream. And I leave it optional. I've tended to do a broadcast on holidays anyway. And usually this has been when I've announced that I was going to do a stream on those days. But I definitely feel the difference when I take a little time for rest. So one way or the other, I hope you enjoyed your Labor Day, and we are back for Stellaris, our space dwarves, and of course the recent emergence of the Great Khan through the Istran Horde. So there's a couple of, basically I have a couple of tasks ahead of me right now. We do also have a fairly hefty naval penalty, which will be increasing over time if memory serves. I also think I've lost my notes on what my fleet composition was going to be. Actually, just give me a quick second here. I'm going to grab a pen right now because I always know that causes a delay. I have all my Elder Scrolls notes. Elder Scrolls, by the way, so I'm back on track with some extra, basically some extra episodes. This will allow me to do some more, basically, knowing that I have some Elder Scrolls episodes in the can makes me feel a little bit better about doing Surviving Mars episodes. So hopefully those will be coming back before too long. And feature the hive mind. I'm sure that meant a lot when I wrote it, but I have no idea what that means right now. Okay. So anyways, let's do a quick review of the position. This is, as usual, probably more for me than anyone else, but if you are curious about where we are, we're playing the Space Dwarves. We are the Akano High Kingdom with their stone ships. We now have a vassal. Unfortunately, the Aztani did sort of get their lunch eaten by the Nanites, and this is translated into a slightly less interesting prize. Now, what we've been doing here is setting up in the terminal egress, and there's a couple of things that are going on right now. I believe we have successfully... Yeah, we have built a successful station. Essentially, we are going nuts and building as many defensive platforms and upgrade. This is priority number one in terms of upgrades and whatnot. And this is essentially so that we can start kind of taking on whatever we can find inside these regions. Now, I'm not actually going to go exploring there until we have we've sort of secured our position inside of the terminal egress. Now, the fact that the Khan has emerged has sort of adjusted that calculation a little bit. So if memory serves, the sort of the Nanites that we're encountering here, I believe they have a system that you can go to and shut them down. And at that point, it will mean that the L gate is sort of my prize, and I'll have a nice heavy defensive position to own it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so fond of building up defenses there. But The fact that the Great Khan has emerged is a mixed blessing. So, what are we realistically looking at right now? Well, first of all, there's the Akano Nation. The Akano are not necessarily fans of mine. Now, we have gotten to a point where we're starting to sort of overcome them in a few regards, but they definitely have some edges over us. More importantly, they're a member of the Favorable Pact. So it is slightly good for me that the Favorable Pact is going to be bearing the brunt of this attack. I believe the Sondrithians and the Zethorians are the ones I'm most worried about. So these guys are now equivalent, and these guys... Oh, wow. Have I really jumped? Okay, so the community of Vislok is still very strong. In any case, the real hope here is that this event is going to start eating up some of this rival faction. Now, one of the capability, Heil, you usually want to try to wait out the Great Khan. Don't they usually collapse after a while, or are you in a bad position for the growing Khan? No, this is one of the very few times that I have actually been in a favorable position for the Khan. Now, I have a lot of territory, so, the more I expand out, the more of a problem I'm going to have in general. You are correct that the Great Khan will die after a while. However, I've never actually made it so that the Great Khan dies of old age. I've always gone toe to toe with them. I don't even know if you get a bonus or that. It just feels like the manly thing to do. So in the case of the Istran Horde, they are sort of isolated here. So in terms of kind of what are the vectors I want to worry about is really what this question boils down to. And what I basically need to worry about the most is when they either go through the L gate or when they start making their way towards my territory. And the biggest things that I need to worry about are actually the wormholes. So in terms of where they might be going, we've got all these areas over here. I don't really see any wormholes in that immediate area. The first one is the gateway. So good news here is that gateway actually leads them to an enemy I'd rather like to see them sort of punch a bit. The Vaji Maelstrom, that's something that I own, so I want to be a little careful about that. Where else were they? All right, so by and large, I'm sort of okay with this. There are a few. There is actually, I know for a fact there's at least one that causes me concern. I think it's Bunda, because I believe Bunda heads to the Birzun system, and I haven't really invested a lot in defenses for that. So if they go to the left, I'm in real trouble because I'm completely defenseless over on this side, and it's actually hard for my ships to make it out there. Alternatively, they go to the east, and they, at the very least is a little bit of a buffer, but eventually they head to the Tiber system, and again, similar idea. And actually the Tiber system is even more worrisome because it's quite close to my capital compared to all of the other options. Where else were we? Now, the other potential worry that I have is maybe they don't go through any wormholes, and instead, the fact of the matter is if they're going to be barreling towards me, they're almost certainly going to be taking the wormhole system. But let's say that they don't, they can actually just head straight to the Ofang system. Now, the good news there is that the Ofang system was set up to take advantage of the fact that it's a choke point. But yeah, the paths that I'm most concerned about in terms of the Great Khan would be to kind of go for this soft little area. And it's actually quite a credible threat, because if you take a look, right, let's just take the middle position. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, that's not quite as bad as I thought. So 6, 7, 8. I guess it'd be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 jumps to here. The alternative, Tristra leads to... See, I actually particularly want them to take the Commune of Vislok because Commune of Vislok are stronger than me. And so 1, they'll be able to slow down the Great Khan, and 2, they'll be able to they're going to get their navy a little shredded. But yeah, the thing that I'm mostly worried about would be the wormholes. So the only thing is I don't really see the Great Khan taking... It almost feels like it would be too good to be true if they jumped into this. So the biggest worry that I have is what happens if they take the Bunda system. And if I see them take the Bunda system, then effectively Tiber and Vokon start getting some really heavy upgrades. Although in reality, the Vokon system, if they start heading towards the Vokon system, it is almost certainly too late. Because again, if I take a look at terminal egress, like let's pretend that I completely abandon my base here. There really isn't any kind of L gate that I can go out of to make it to the system. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Now, I did have this whole construction project in mind. I kind of need to catch up on that, but I also don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, like, doing things unrelated. There's definitely a strong desire to equip another scientist. The problem is they're almost certainly going to die the second that they go into these systems. So again, like I said, we're going to keep the terminal egress, we're going to lock that down, and then we'll consider moving ships around the area. Okay, so Grand Herald can get another 40 units. The Strategic Readiness Fleet... Okay, so the 141s are basically at capacity. Hello, Telrea Best. How you doing? Okay, Joint Expeditionary Fleet compared to the First Stellar Fleet. What's going on here? Probably my best option is to just simply look at what Alvis is preparing. A ton of Corvettes, so 1, 2, 3... Surely there is something that's... Okay, 11. 12, 13, 14. A bit of a distraction. God bless you, Talrea. That brings you up to... It does not say, but thank you for the 11 bits. Okay, so we've got 14 Corvettes being constructed right now, and that apparently is to the Joint Expeditionary Force. Got the Grand Herald, the Strategic Readiness Fleet. Okay, while I'm at it, I'll just start a new page. Four battleships, 8 cruisers, 19 destroyers, 38 corvettes. So in that light, good. We've got 24, we wanted 38, which means I should be producing 14 more corvettes. So I think I'm short one. I'm going to manually count this time just because I'm a little worried. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, fair enough. Talwyn Greenwood, great to see you. Okay, so we are on track to building our full... we're now on track to building our full... sort of our full complement. Now the real question here is, do I want to go crazy and build yet another batch of, like, yet another fleet? Because we're already over the cap, and we're going to be 14 over the cap, or sorry, 14 more on top of that. So we'll basically be at 452. And then I'm kind of proposing to add another 110 or so on top of that. I have a feeling that even my economy can't weather that. On the other hand, of course, we can do a bunch of upgrades to our stations to be able to incorporate that. I think for now I'm going to hold off on the construction of new ships in favor of improving my defensive systems. So let's harden up these borders a bit. First priority is going to be doing the... Okay, so clearly we've already realized the danger. So Ofang... Yep, also getting an upgrade. Biram probably doesn't need... Yeah, Biram doesn't need an immediate upgrade, so we're okay there. I'm just trying to think... I believe this one remaining star base was to help with a wormhole or something somewhere. Speaking of which, where's the Kabji wormhole? Ah, here's the one I need to be worried about. The Tarmada system. I could have sworn there was something. Okay. Right, so they're already on their way getting the Okay, so it looks like we're basically already to go with the upgrades. I will admit I am somewhat surprised that Volcron is not getting... well, you know what, we'll upgrade the starport. We can always decommission them if it comes down to it, but I think we're going to use this as... we're going to make our stands. The Vite system I'm less worried about because Vite winds up going to places I want and need. Okay. So I'm going to keep accumulating alloys for now. And I'll just use it as an excuse to build a whole bunch of... it'll be an excuse to build a whole bunch of defensive platforms when it comes down to it. Ceradon. Okay, so 2 more jobs before it unlocks a new task. So how are my strategic resources doing right now? 8 exotic gases. So in this case, we can afford to do an upgrade to a better science lab. We'll start that now. I don't think I have anything that I want to build on the planet right now that isn't a science facility. So I'm going to leave that one alone. Riak is a forge world, so what's going on here? They're also at a point where they want another job. So the tempting move is to take an alloy foundry, but similar story again. We probably want to upgrade our existing capacity before we go any further on that. And we actually don't really need it at the moment. We're going to be covered for the next building slot. I mean, there might be an argument for a stock exchange. What's the trade value right now? I mean, 32 isn't really something I want to write home about. Although I can build a military. Okay, we'll go for a quick military academy just because we should impose discipline. This one's already got the military academy though, so what's the story here? Well, they're already building... Sorry, I'm not paying attention. Okay, moving right along. Looks like we're getting blocked, although it's very inexpensive to clear this stuff, so we're in good shape here, and we have plenty of jobs available. Gravas. Also a forge world, but we have plenty of jobs, so I don't think I'm going to make any changes there. Glaboshi. Okay, 1 job before unlocking a new position. I'm definitely going to need to come up with the next 5, though. So let's start with a military academy. And apparently this is a generator world, which means I haven't really put much thought into what its secondary improvement will be. For now, we'll turn this into a heritage site, because apparently I missed that. Oh, that's right. I think this is the one that we... Yes, this is the one with the crime problems. Okay. I'll have to think a little bit about what we do with that one. And apparently we're covered. So again, similar... I do want to do upgrades on all of these systems. So stuff like this station does not make any sense. This is something that the AI set up. I would actually potentially decommission it, but there's no reason to get rid of it at the moment. I'm not hurting in terms of capacity or anything along those lines. Things like Gear Fab Station and all of that, a lot of this existed to deal with some of the piracy problems I was running into. And that's still going to largely be what I set up some different bases for. It looks like I'm still missing a little bit in these regions. But that's kind of a secondary consideration right now. I have, when the Great Khan's running around and when the Nanites are trying to eat you, I need to figure out what I need to sort of prioritize that first. Got a couple of comments in chat. So Cool Eagle's here. We just started Cool Eagle. Let me just take a quick second here and shout out this good man. Cool Eagle's been doing a little bit more BattleTech among other games. Actually, it's been a while since I've seen you play BattleTech. I'm assuming you're still playing it though. Cool Eagle is definitely a strategy gamer though. Definitely somebody who's been very generous with his time and his attention to the stream here. And I think somebody you'd want to check out. And we've got Lefty98 here. You're debating on getting this game. How good is it? And the devs. Also, what do you think about the future of the game? You asked this in Discord, and someone said the devs are bad, and the future is perpetual DLC and no bug fixes. How true is this, though? Lefty, that's a really good question. Hey, Johnny Big Time. Okay, you guys got another shout out coming up. But Lefty asked a really good question here. So first thing to keep in mind here, Lefty, and we will get onto the game. As you guys might remember, there's a little bit of a filibuster I do at the beginning just to try and get everybody in. So first thing to keep in mind is that I am currently playing the Ancient Relics story pack. And this and actually everything that isn't cosmetic DLC I have gotten from Paradox in the form of a press key. So to my view, this does not shape my views on the developer. I don't mind saying when the developer has done things that I don't think are right. But it's probably better that I let you know that I could be considered an interested party in this sense. So here's the thing about Paradox is that they have got a very unique business model. It's one that I think works very well for them. And one of the biggest challenges that they have had, and I was actually one of these people who was very angry about the way that they did Crusader Kings, and I have come to sort of appreciate exactly how they do it. So if you take a look at the other games by Paradox Developer Studio, so Europa Universalis, Crusader Kings 2, Hearts of Iron 4, you're going to look at them and you're going to see a huge list of DLC. And it is almost certainly true that the game that if you do pick up this game, or if you pick up any of these other ones, and I believe it's on sale on Humble right now. I don't have a Humble affiliate link, but I believe Cool Eagle might if you want to support a streamer doing that. I don't know if Johnny has one as well, but you guys can fight amongst yourselves as to who's more deserving of the affiliate link. And I know on the Paradox website, it's on sale right now. So if you want to buy it directly from them so they don't have to pay the 30% commissions to the other stores, you can give them the money as well. So the way that these Paradox games work is that they develop the game and it gets this continuous development. I mean, I think Crusader Kings 2 is like 5 or 7 years old, and it's just still getting fairly consistent content updates. And new things are added to the game. In the case of Stellaris, this game looks completely different from the way that it did when it first came out. Like, the borders used to be these big blobs. There used to be different forms of hyperspace travel and whatnot. The one thing that I would say is a misrepresentation for sure is no bug fixes. That is absolutely not true. This game has gotten a lot of support, and it's exactly that DLC that everybody keeps complaining about that sort of finances the continual development. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something that's inside the game here. You can find this yourself if you just go to Stellaris Wiki. But the DLC for this game is sort of listed onto the right. So Leviathans, Utopia, Synthetic Dawn, Apocalypse, Distant Stars, Megacorp, and Ancient Relics, which I'm playing right now. Yeah, Capability's got a good point here, which is that Paradox actually has a podcast where they cover a lot of these things as well. But let's take a look at Leviathans, the very first thing that came out. It's called a story pack. So in this case, it was a little bit lighter in terms of mechanical changes, and it adds a little bit more in terms of theme. So you'll notice here what it says expansion features. So they added the Guardians, this dragon-looking thing here. Enclaves. So the Enclaves are... well, basically, they're the people who, they come with their Kickstarters and stuff like that. The War in Heaven. So this is when the fallen empires wake up and ask you, are you with us or with the terrorists? And then new art and music to add greater variety and listening pleasures to your game experience. So this is the stuff that you pay for when you buy Leviathans. In addition to that, it came with the 1.3 patch. So everyone who owns Stellaris, whether or not they got the Leviathans pack, says a convenient audio explorer feature, rally points for your freshly assembled navy, the expansion planner interface, an overhaul of strategic resources, clearer specialization for ship types, more options for customizing new galaxies, and new smarter sector governors. Now, to give you an idea of the extent that these changes can go to, let's take a look at the Megacorp expansion. So Megacorp, again, what you paid for, well, you get the Megacorp, sort of the Civic. You can get things like city worlds, caravaner fleets, and so on and so forth. The free features actually get their own page. So this is all the stuff that you got for free with the associated patch for the game. Now, some of these are fairly minor. So added simplified Chinese localization. That is only going to affect a certain number of the challenges. Is PvP popular in the game? I don't do a lot of multiplayer, but it does seem that there's a fairly robust multiplayer community, and I believe the Weekend Stellaris Club do some more PvP sort of things. How's the Twitch, YouTube? I think there's pretty much Icespec seems to be a guy who does a lot of Stellaris content. He's doing quite well for himself. I've never had a complaint in terms of the people watching Stellaris. I'm sure some people would like me to actually start playing the game right now, but in terms of it seems like a very active one. The only one that I would say that probably doesn't have as active of a community would be Crusader Kings 2, because I know people are always like super excited when I wind up covering that game. So but yeah, so here's the big thing I want to tell you this. For Paradox games, like, I'm not kidding when I say that Crusader Kings has had 7 years and the game has been completely transformed over that time, and it's the DLC that did that. There's not going to be an incentive for the developers to continue working on this game if it's not supported through some kind of a paid product. Some people are fine waiting to buy the DLC at a discount. They also wait a while for the discount, so you're not going to get the thing at like 70% off a month after release. But that's basically what you're signing on for, is that it's going to be asking for you for DLC on a somewhat regular basis. I'd say Stellaris is particularly good because the story packs tend to be relatively inexpensive, and then sort of the big, like, game-changing DLCs are a little bit pricier, but you sort of get content comparable to it. All of these DLC come with an associated free update, so if you don't feel like you don't really feel like it's worth it, you're still going to get something out of it. And just to give you an idea, like, the 604 hours that I have in this game is largely driven from the fact that in the years since they've released the game, it's continued to be supported and updated. You can actually go back and play version 1.0 of Stellaris, and you can be sure that if it stayed at version 1.0, it would not have the kind of support that it does today. So that's kind of it. I am not going to be the one to say that the Paradox style is for everyone. Obviously, EA has got a model now where in Battlefield 5, they've completely removed DLC because they're a little bit more on their subscription services. So clearly there is sort of a revealed preference that some people have in terms of how they feel about DLC. And in the case of Paradox, they found one that allows them to sort of continue to support these long-tailed games through continual DLC. But clearly, there is a very large and vocal subset of gamers who simply do not want to see paid DLC at all. And in that case, especially if you're a completionist and you have to have everything right away, do keep in mind that it's going to be a little bit like the Total War series, and the fact that there's usually pretty continual DLC updates. Although I would say that, from my perception at least, the Paradox stuff tends to come with more sort of overall updating and support for the games. I'm not entirely sure what you get with the Creative Assembly stuff. Anyways, hopefully that answers some of your question. What does the Galaxy Edition give over the basic one? That is an excellent question, and I don't know offhand. Let's take a quick look at the Steam page. Because again, the thing to keep in mind is that I did get this from Paradox. So the Galaxy Edition, you get a novel, so there's an ebook with it. There's sort of a collector's art book. They do signed wallpaper, so a lot of cosmetic stuff. There is a special alien race. One thing that might be attractive would be the soundtrack. But basically, everything that you get with the Galaxy Edition is a little bit more sort of the super fan sort of stuff. So you know, if you like the science fiction stories, if you like the world of it, the novel will appeal to you. I don't know how many people think that the signed wallpaper or the digital collector's book are worth it. I mean, the game has some beautiful art, but essentially you're getting perks that do not confer any benefit directly in the game except for the added portrait. You have the sci-fi grand strategy genre continues to grow as it looks really fun. I have a great time with this, Lefty. I mean, obviously, if you ask me, do I think the game is worth it? Absolutely, yes. Looking at the Paradox website, let's see what it's at right now in terms of price. It currently costs... Not available on sale. No, where is it? Stellaris... Oh, it's not on sale? That's surprising. Okay, well, it's on sale on Stellaris. Now, Humble gives it to me in Canadian. It's 75% off, so you're looking for about $10 for the base game. I would definitely say that some of the DLC would be worth picking up, whether you want to get it on sale now or whether you want to find it, after playing the game a little bit. I leave to you. But I would say $10 is quite a fair price to see whether or not this is something you want to check out. Let me just quickly catch up with chat, and then we'll jump into the game. Feel free to keep asking more questions, Lefty, but I am going to take a minute just to unpause the game. I've already got all my housekeeping done. And I definitely like introducing this game to people, so I am happy to take all the time that you need. Thank you very much for the follow. I'm happy to take the time to help you make as informed of a decision as you can. I do strongly recommend that you check out the wiki, because that will tell you everything. Like, if you want to see the fixes, that's all in the wiki, as well as the all of the different DLC and what you get inside of them. So that should give you an idea in terms of what you're getting in exchange for the money for purchasing them. The free features you can kind of already take as a given. But yeah, like I said, I like introducing the game to people. I can never know what somebody's preferences are, but I can definitely tell people the reason why I find these games interesting. And hello, Valken. Sorry, I'm catching up with everybody. So, Cool Eagle is a Paradox shill, but you supported them long before you became a streamer. Good to hear. Capability 29, you agree without how Paradox do things, these games would never get made. Evolve, never understood the PDX haters, but haters gonna hate. So one thing I will say, Capability, like, I did not like the Crusader Kings 2 system where they would split the DLC into the gameplay part, the unit portraits, or not unit models, and the soundtrack. One, because that made it really inconvenient to buy on Steam, and then number two, I know there were Paradox representatives who said that the majority of the cost went into the creation of the models, so I'm like, well, why am I subsidizing the people who, like, I want to buy the base DLC, why am I subsidizing the people who want to get models and stuff like that? So I did think that was a little bit of an excessive run on their part, but obviously I think we're on the same page in terms of saying that this particular business model that they have supports an ongoing development of a game that is worth playing already and continues to get better with ongoing development. So I'd say on balance it is a good system, and I think Stellaris is the best example of that system at play. So like, I am sympathetic enough to the people who dislike the system because I have had some points where I've been upset with it. But I've never been quite on the whole I should get stuff for free view of it. What else did we have? Cool Eagle says, I mean, I get it, never got into CK2 because by the time you got into the base game, there were a ton of DLCs and it was going to cost like $100 to get caught up. But of course, the thing is, when I got into CK2, I just slowly filed in the DLC over time. That's actually a really good way to learn the game. Okay, anyways, we're ready to play. I'm like half an hour into the stream, so let's unpause. And I'm particularly interested in seeing what happens to the Great Khan and where they wind up moving. So everything's going to stay put for now, and we're going to upgrade. We're going to upgrade whatever systems I can. Have you seen Sin's newest masterpiece? I don't believe I have, Valken, but I have you to thank for the ability to use those emotes. By the way, not to be outdone, so Johnny Big Time said, "Hey, I have seen that one. I like that one a lot. What do you think of it, Valken?" Sin's not here. So Johnny Big Time says, Twitch keeps logging me out every 5 minutes, so I'll see how long I'm able to hang out before they boot you again. Hopefully Johnny gets a chance to hear this. Johnny Big Time is my favorite broadcaster on Twitch. In fact, if you do !Johnny_big_time, you'll get a chance to see some of his live clips. Johnny, in addition to having a fantastic attitude, has one of the quicker wits and just generally has a lot more energy and sort of the ability to keep the cast moving. Obviously, one of the problems that I have is that I talk a lot, and sometimes that comes at the expense of the game. Now, the nice thing is that allows me to explain a game, so there are some benefits to that. But Johnny is somebody who does a lot more action-oriented games, and recently completed a playthrough of the entire Witcher series, but is currently playing Days Gone, and I am extremely happy to say that I got a chance to stream A Way Out with him, and it is one of my favorite casts in terms of just being able to do stuff with him. Okay, so the Joint Expeditionary Fleet. Right, I need to upgrade the ships. Well, we can do that right away. Actually, well, it's too late now. Probably should have waited on that. And I thought I had something to do with my construction ship, but I was wrong. Valken is concerned. You think the quality's slipping? Is this what you're saying? The mysterious moon of Ozagam Prime. Now that Ozagam Prime has been settled for a while, some data irregularities have been noticed. Specifically, the moon Oxanum C4A does not seem to be made of remotely similar material to Ozagmum Prime. It suggests that it was not formed at the same time, but rather originally formed elsewhere and somehow was captured by the gravity of Ozagmum Prime at a later date. Quite where Ozagmum C4A came from is currently a mystery. Curious. Situation log update. All right, let's research it. It'll only cost a month because we've got a fairly decent amount of social research. You love it. We were talking in stream about adding more frogs. Sin, I think, is sometimes a little too harsh on her creative abilities. I have been completely thrilled every time I've seen a new emote for me from her. And in general, whenever I take a look at the... Oop, we gotta build another district. Let's build 2 more for good measure. Whenever I've had the opportunity to see her... basically see like a... Special inquiry concluded. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. Whenever I have had a chance to see work she's done for other channels, I always think, why didn't I think of that? Like, she always has these great takes on traditional emotes. I like that one too. Nanite Transmuter. The mass production of these rare resources require particularly capable nanites. Okay. So I think I've gone for this usual routine of lower cost tech. In this case, I'm going to jump over the mineral purification hub in favor of standardized cruiser patterns, and that's just because I suspect with all the wars going on, I'm going to hit some points where, oh, looks like they're already chewing up the competition. I have a feeling that we're going to be getting to some points where I'm going to need to replace ships a little bit faster than what I'm expecting. Rogue Moonbase, the mysteries of Ozagmum C4A have been revealed. A detailed survey revealed that the moon is slightly lopsided, with the far side of the moon having a disproportionately large share of total mass. The reason for this, we believe, is that Ozagmum C4A, Jesus Christ, why could they not get a simpler name, once orbited another planet which was destroyed in a cataclysmic explosion. The extra thickness on the far side of Ozagmum C4A is because that was the side which faced its original planet. The extra material is part of the mass of the planet, which was blown into Ozagmum C4A, knocking it out of orbit and sending it eventually into the orbit of Ozagmum Prime. We speculate that the planet was destroyed by a weapon, or perhaps just an attempt to create a power source based on dark matter, as there are high concentrations of it in the planetary material coating the far side of the moon. So you can say, astounding. Engineering research gain, 250 engineering. Dark matter drawing, 25% progress towards dark matter drawing, and we add 1 dark matter unit to Ozagmum C4A. Now, a couple things I want to do. Old Alvania. First of all, we do not have the artifacts, so we'll get that research now. And next up, let's go to Traditions and Relics. Let's also try and find some applications. So, oh, we have already done the reverse engineering. Now, if I want, I can use the head of Zarklan, but I don't know what the... Oh, that's right. I don't actually know what the Fallen Empire fleet does. I mean, maybe we'll make that like a really desperate move at the very end, if it looks like everything's going to be lost. I can I can try and I hit the button and like I either get a 10, I don't know, like a 10 10 weeks like ships or something like that. All right. Sorry, I tapped out for a second. Oh, I will also caution you too, Lefty. I play the game at normal speed, which is usually very slow, but I'm also very pedantic, as I'm sure you've noticed. So the pace might be a little bit slower than what you're looking for. The Kenti... Okay, I'm okay with them. Okay, this is good news. Let's
hostile reactionaries detected.
All right, so we were sort of preparing for this. I think in this particular case here, we're going to hold the line. And this is just so that I can take advantage of the defense platforms. Now, these are not, these are not the most exciting defensive units I have, but they at least allow me to sort of engage them on my terms.
Evading hostiles.
Yeah, it's probably good for the science ship to get out of there.
Hostile reactionaries engaged.
All right. Showtime. Looking good. Okay, so the Grand Herald lost a destroyer, a corvette, cruiser. Now, one thing I want to double check is I believe Alvis Station actually gives me, yes, it gives me more experienced units. So in this particular case, I'm going to build the replacements. All right, so we're going to send these guys to heal first, and what I might do is I might actually try poking them at the Zir system. Nope, actually, I'm going to be disciplined about that. Because the last time we did that, we actually wound up taking a lot of damage. Johnny, it was a shorter shout out I gave for you, but hopefully you got a chance to hear it.
Scientific progress attained.
All right, Tachyon Lance, a more powerful version of the Particle Lance. This weapon fires a Tachyon beam of immense power. Like its predecessor, its use is limited to battleships and titans. So similar story here. We want to find the inexpensive tech, focused arc emitter or plasma cannon. I think plasma cannon is the obvious choice here for cost. Okay, Starbase. Right, we're continuing to build up our infrastructure, so I'm okay with that. And we'll move them into... I'm actually going to do the Thabit system, and that's just because of the science. I want to try and get as much of a scientific edge as I can. So it feels bad to
Construction complete.
to have to sit on, to be disciplined and not pursue them into the next system. But again, I want to make sure that I've got the hardest position I can here before we try to make any other moves on them. I don't believe you when you say that your construction queue is done.
System resources analyzed.
Okay, so 2 jobs open. I'm just going to take a quick minute and see. So there's a little bit of an argument for a galactic stock exchange here. Might as well. And this is a tech world, so we'll give them an upgrade. Ceradon, we're still on the way to upgrading, so that's fine. How you doing, Level Dope R6? Thanks for stopping by. Nafgravas, great, same deal we already had before. And repairs, upgrades, and science ship doesn't know what to do with itself. I'm going to just slightly adjust this template. There's something I feel like the fleet manager should be a really useful tool, but it winds up hurting more than helping in my experience.
Ships upgraded.
Okay, so I think the way I'm going to handle this, I'm actually going to move this fleet straight into the Kano High Kingdom territory. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take the first Stellar Fleet. I'm actually going to send them back home, and they're going to form the core of the next fleet that gets built on Elvis. So this does mean that I'm going to be pretty flagrant in throwing off the naval capacity limits, but of course that's going to be coming with the understanding that I'm going to be building like all the defenses. Okay, so it looks like they are moving in the concerning directions. So I'm going to make a guess here on Vokron. Okay, so we got 7 days. I'm going to save up all my alloys here.
System resources analyzed.
Okay, so we're going to prepare for invasions. Let's do disruption generator. Oop, we're out of... I kind of need to make sure that I distribute this evenly. Is Tiber is already on its upgrade job, so... And of course the terminal egress I want to make sure is being taken care of too. The infinity equation. As the ISS Erskine approaches the Gargantua black hole, they find that they are not alone. At the edge of the event horizon, it soars, reflecting light from the stars being drawn into the dark, gaping hole. A gigantic construction in the shape of a perfect sphere. We cannot pick up any signals from it, nor does anything we send make it respond. It simply sits at the edge of the abyss, waiting.
Situation log updated.
Alright, so... I don't think it's going to let me do anything to...
Construction finalized.
Oops, I messed that up. Okay, not ready to use any of the relic abilities yet. Well, I mean, building bots might make sense, but upgrade's good. Construction, right, Volcan's done. Subterranean hollows, an extensive network of subterranean tunnels of truly astounding proportion make swirls in the crust of this planet. What could have caused them? Now, I don't own this planet, so it's not really going to help me that much. And Ceradon Prime is in reasonable shape, I think. Although I did say, I mean, I've been saying for these other ones that a stock exchange is okay, so I'll build a stock exchange. I just want to make sure that this is right. Okay, so we've got a... I want to make sure it's actually making the ships that I need to replace my fleets with. Feldazar 1 ethic changes. Several of our abduction teams stationed at the observation post above Feldazar 1 have apparently been using the thrusters of their shuttles to burn large circles and complex patterns into crop fields belonging to the primitive lavis that are indigenous to the planet. The shuttle crews have been severely reprimanded for this prank, but the crop circles appear to have taken on some sort of religious significance with the natives. A new religion has formed based on these patterns, and it is gaining popularity among the Lavis at an alarming rate. Interesting. Okay, I believe it was the Grand Herald that needed the destroyer and the Corvette.
System resources
battleship?
analyzed.
That ain't right. Cruiser.
System resources analyzed.
So it's a little inefficient that I'm building them this way because obviously I'm not, you know, it's going to take them a while to get to the main fleet. But the thing is that they're experienced units, and I'm not going to be deploying that fleet right away. It's also not terrible to find out exactly how long it takes me to get to the
Construction
main location.
complete.
Okay, Paradise is done building. Right. I was like, 28 free jobs? I'm like, because I went crazy and built all of the raw resources. Or raw resource extraction. Natural resource extraction. I don't know what I'm saying. I'll admit I'm a little impatient to like try and get the, you know, the show on the road with upgrading my bases, but I also understand that sitting on alloys is actually one of the smartest things I can do right now. The reason for that, if that's not apparent, is just at the moment I don't have a clear idea on where the Istran Horde is going to go. And so keeping alloys in reserve is ultimately going to allow me to put down... oh wow, they're completely cleaning out this whole area. So they take Mudstram. I definitely need to prepare for them taking Bunda. But yeah, basically... saving up the alloys here until I can get a clearer idea on where their movement is gonna go. Oh, maybe not quite ready for a hypercom swarm yet. Basically, it lets me prioritize the upgrades. All of these upgrades are already going to happen, and it's actually in my interest not to build too many more ships until I get my anchorages down. But seeing as my priority is to sort of build up all these defensive structures, saving up the alloys at least for as long as it takes me to at least as long as it takes me to sort of get everything in place for their arrival. It basically makes sure that the expenses are going to the sort of where they're most needed. I have no idea why it took me so long to get such a simple concept across. I am not very good with the English language, clearly. I have poor facility with
construction complete.
All right. Again, just kind of babysitting all these planets. And Alvis I am okay with leaving the starbase alone. So there is a mild temptation once the... What the hell is going on here? Oh, no, this is as it should be. Once the first stellar fleet shows up, that's going to be a little bit harder for me to justify not building ships. Fortunately, I don't need to worry about that for a while. Okay, how's the terminal egress going? They're almost on their way to being a starhold, so that makes me happy. Vulcan's still got things to do. Tiber is still upgrading to a star fortress. At some point I should think about... looks like there's a lot of construction already happening on all my defensive positions, to be honest, so... Is Kabji doing anything? That's a pretty important one. Yes, they are. They are also getting some upgrades.
System resources analyzed.
There's a little bit of an argument for me to put the points into anchorages just because it will save me in terms of the costs, both in terms of energy as well as alloys. I don't actually have a really good reply to myself on that. Let's take a look at what we've got here. So, like, this would be a prime candidate for switching into some anchorages, but I might actually just dismantle this one entirely. Gear tab, what's going on with you? Okay, so we don't have any piracy problems. Let's throw an anchorage in there just for the sake of the argument. Anchorages don't actually cost that much, so...
Construction finalized.
All right.
Planetary work
Actually,
site
let me just think a little
established.
bit. So an anchorage is going to give me 4. And I need... Yeah, I think I'm going to invest a little more heavily on this. Okay, Kildatha, I felt the need to upgrade that. Now that was an old... Well, no, it's still a gateway, so... Elor, what are you protecting? Ah, you are protecting a natural war. Oh, I completely ignored it. Ignored this. Okay, well, they definitely need an upgrade then. How am I doing? Still... Okay, Polystrea. Oh, right, this is one of the troublemaker buildings. I think I'm going to leave that one alone for a bit. These other ones I've already maxed out. Okay, Wisofang getting the upgrade? Right. So we'll also give it some firepower. Oh, I really want a deep space black site. Oh, not jamming. Disruption. Still doing okay for prices. Okay, what's the deal with Toril? I think Toril just existed to deal with piracy. So for now, I'm just going to put an anchorage down. I'm mostly just trying to seed these anchorages so I can take it. This might get an upgrade later, but I think I'm going to sit on the alloys for now. The Andigage Nation have audaciously laid claim to the... whatever planet, the one that I wasn't paying attention to. Okay, I don't really need the food right now, so in this case we're going to put down districts. We're going to hammer out as much energy as we can out of that. Some of this now, it's not even... the fact that I'm hammering out all of those energy buildings, it's partly just about not having to constantly go and babysit all of these planets. Oops. I've got some construction to do, it looks like. Alright, I don't have any science in immediate range, so I will build a starbase here. Okay, communication from the Polysimus Watchers. Acano Variatus, we have consulted the oracles and determined that your species has an important role to play in the great undertaking of the faith. To ensure that you can carry out the task, we have decided to gift you a squadron of surplus escort ships that should be more than adequate to destroy any primitive fleets of other lesser races that might stand in your path. Do not be tempted to tamper with the ship's systems. They may be older models of ours, but they are still far beyond your current level of intellectual development. We graciously accept. I was like, we do not need Polysimus charity. Yeah, that's not happening. We graciously accept. Okay, 2.3k for, oh, achievement unlocked, Old Friends. Receive a gift from Fallen Empire. Okay, to be completely honest, I would not have expected the religious ones to be the people who gifted it. So let's see what's the deal with the escort here. Oh. Ooh. These are going to be very helpful against the Nanites. Look at these beauties. It does, however, give me a little bit of an indication in terms of what I can expect if I use that ability, which those are nice, but they're not like I want to spend all my resources on obtaining one of them kind of nice. Again, just taking a quick look at the cues to make sure I'm not missing out on anything.
Scientific progress attained.
Alright, standardized cruiser patterns. Establishing new standards for the modeling and construction of cruisers greatly improves the efficiency of the production pipeline. So, similar story, we'll find the lesser costing ones, although I am going to give a small priority to things like ship upgrades. So, robot modification points is wonderful, and 14 months to get another kick of the can really is something I would like to take advantage of. But to get the impulse thrusters instead, like that's a pretty big boon for my fleets. So I'm willing to take two times the duration to get that upgrade. Race system not going to take off. Good luck with Space Dwarfs. Thank you very much, Cool Eagle. Oh yeah, by the way, for those of you who are wondering why I was not expecting the result that we got from the religious faction, here's the story of the Acano. This is the story of Harrison Jones, High King of Old Albania. No artifact was safe from Jones, and even the most ingenious engineers of ages past could not develop a mechanism that would confound his brilliance. Through his legendary exploits, Jones united the quarrelsome tribes and set his sights on the new secrets and the treasures buried within. The Acano people of Old Albania are now reaching out to the galaxy in their stone ships, continuing the great work of the High King. No tomb is safe, and no civilization will remain untouched. They are currently alpine, industrious, natural engineer, strong, and non-adaptive. We actually have a new free trait point if I want to do that. Sorry, so they're also traditional now. And in terms of the ethics, they are xenophobic, militarist materialists with the Byzantine bureaucracy, philosopher king, and distinguished admiralty civics. So essentially, the story here is the Byzantine bureaucracy. I sort of suggested that you have to, like, when you go to get something like your driver's license or that, it's cross-referenced in the great database of grudges, and you have to settle scores before you get that business done. So thank you for the reminder, Cool Eagle, and I'm assuming you're heading off to to stream, so I hope you have a good one. All right, Great Khan meets defeat. In spite of her vaunted military genius, Trak, the Great Khan of the Istran Horde, has met with defeat in the Mudstram system. When the armada she was commanding lost in a great battle against forces belonging to the Akano nation, the Great Khan and her closest officers fled into hyperspace in a small shuttlecraft. Even now, Trak is busy assembling a new armada to resume her conquests, but this victory has brought some much-needed respite to those who oppose the relentless advance of the Istran Horde. So, not terrible. Certainly the... it looks like their progress has been delayed. Actually, it's particularly useful that it's the Mudstrom system that they got stopped at, because that's going to potentially be where they enter into my territory. Unfortunately, it does mean that it's increasingly less likely that the commune of Vislok will be hit by the Great Khan. It looks like the Akano nation just is going to bear the brunt of it. So the Great Khan is not infallible. Yeah, their fleet power is pretty weak
Planetary
now.
worksite established.
Okay, we have got Fargus Secundus. Oh, I am going to enjoy mining the crap out of that. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to adjust. It just occurred to me that I'm actually going to need to find some housing for people, so I might need to adjust my policies. Order restored on Glabashi. With a significant reduction of crime on Glabashi, the planet's once pervasive criminal underworld has been reduced to nothingness. The population has been imbued with a renewed sense of safety and harmony. Center of the drug trade modifier removed. Okay, good news there.
System resources analyzed.
I am mildly tempted to remove the anti-crime campaign. I want to see what the effect of that is, though.
Construction complete.
Okay, interesting. So, the next test. Interesting. Okay. So looks like we've got crime under control no matter what. Okay, Kabji, what are you up to? Nothing I need to worry about. Tiber, what are you up to? Right, Tiber is getting upgrades, so I can automatically make them a citadel, or I can start spending on the other defenses. I think in this case we're going to go full citadel, and this is just because it's not clear to me that the defensive platforms will be needed here. Not yet, anyway. What about the remaining ships? Are they on their way to reinforcing the good guys?
Construction complete.
Riak is in good shape. Some of those upgrades that I've done on Riak and whatnot are also going to help me out in terms of getting my fleet cap back in order. If I'm feeling particularly brave, I could also consider building some strongholds. Not sure if I want to go stock exchange on here yet. Okay, Tiber.
Planetary worksite established.
Let's start by upgrading the planetary capital. Again, similar story here. I'm just trying to maximize my my energy output at this point. There will be other uses for these colonies, but it just gives my guys something to do, and I've got way too many minerals. Okay, naval capacity plus 30%. Oh, okay, or so plus 30, not percent. If that was percent based, I would be so happy. Naval capacity plus 30. By maintaining a professional corps of fleet liaison, we can improve the communications and flow of orders throughout the chain of command. Okay. I think this is really going to be one of these times where I go for the cheapest cost, so... Audio curating vault it is. Mintaka Prime. Oh, this is probably because I've got slaves. Yeah. But I'm going to need to figure out something else. I actually need to come up with something to do on this world. So currently mining world. Surely there's something more we can do. Do we have that much of a slave population? I guess we do. Slave processing facility it is then. I could upgrade it for more consumer goods. That wouldn't be terrible, actually. We'll upgrade the planetary capital to begin with. Yeah, I think I am going to make more consumer goods. Obviously, it'd be nice if I could have a more specialized planet for that, but I think there's an argument to be made for sort of diversifying
Construction
the production a bit. Okay, we will give you a monument as is our way. I'm just going to hit out another couple of energy buildings.
Complete.
All right, so gear tab. Right, this is going to be where all the anchorages finish. So I want to be careful. I want to be careful with these ones.
Construction finalized.
For the reason that if it's like a primary defensive station, I actually want to make sure. Yeah, I want to make sure that I'm keeping the queue going. If it's just these little intermediate ones that I set up to deal with pirates, I'm okay letting them hang out for a bit. Okay, so I just want to double check that Vocon, yeah, Vocon's on its way. Tiber is becoming a citadel. Terminal egress is still on its way to becoming a starhold. Biram, right, we're still... Well, I guess I could turn it into a star fortress now. Ofang, yeah, we'll turn you into a citadel. Actually, I'm getting a little short on money now, so... Or alloys, so... I'll stop that madness for a bit. What do I want to do with Nafgravas? It's got an odd factory which is already working on right now. Not quite ready for a galactic stock exchange.
Construction finalized.
Maybe a stronghold?
System resources analyzed.
Maybe I just wait.
Our research has progressed.
Okay, starbase is done. Usually that means I need to make my construction ship do stuff, so... Again, I'm going to prioritize science where I can, although adding a nice colonizable world is a good consolation prize. And plasma cannon, the latest in plasma weaponry. These cannons are fully militarized versions of the older, somewhat improvised plasma throwers. Their plasma projectiles are even deadlier. Okay, gateway travel, mildly tempting, but sapient combat AI. I mean, it says it's a dangerous technology, but... we'll do gateway travel. It's important to remember I have the option, though. Okay, let's take a look at my military apparent... Oh, no, the Grand Herald does want that upgrade, so... In this case, we'll transfer out the Herald just so that we can get the upgrades in. Strategic Readiness Fleet, same story. So the reason I'm not sending out... the reason why the Grand Herald gets kicked out on its own is just because it downgrades. Danger is our middle name. Johnny's got it right. Hey! I see you going to that Rainbow Six Siege nonsense. Oh, by the way, I read the dumbest article on PC Gamer about subscription services for games. I was so mad when I read it. Maybe I should shut up about it, though. I can talk about things that I like rather than things I dislike. We picked up a signal. If it originates... it originates from the titanic metallic sphere we encountered earlier. Previously impervious to contact attempts, it now sends out a rhythmic pulse of radio waves pointed towards the black hole it orbits. What it's doing is beyond any of our staff, but this signal might have created an opening in the sphere for our scientists to exploit. Fascinating.
Situation log updated.
All right, let's see what's going on with the... Okay, so we need a reasonably skilled scientist. Congratulations, you are a reasonably skilled scientist. Go forth for old Albania. Just gonna set that thing up in the dock. The Great Khan Track. This is Great Khan Track of the Istran Horde. My defeat at the hands of the Akano nation was a minor setback, nothing more. The Akanos are brave warriors and worthy opponents, but they too will fall before us. The tide of history is sweeping across the galaxy, and nothing can stop it. My new armada has been assembled. A second onslaught approaches. Alright. So, the second time you kill the Great Khan is when you get the bonuses. So let's just see. For the sake of argument, so we've got a salvage cruiser. Is there any possible way for me to get into the Istran Horde? Not anytime soon. This is such a disappointing path. No, I'm just not going to try. If they expand out to a point where I think I can come jumping out of the terminal egress... Ooh. I know what I'm going to do. So let's get a scientist in this thing. Genius is mildly tempting because I can make use of them later. Okay. So we're going to take this guy and we are going to send him to check out these systems. This is gonna be my excuse to come in and kick the ass of the bad guys. I probably even shouldn't be surveying them. I should just be exploring them at this point.
System resources analyzed.
But again, the hope is that they actually start eating the potential rivals. Nothing like some crab meat for dinner. Now I need to wonder if Valken is making a reference to the game or if it's actually crab that you're enjoying.
Ships upgraded.
Okay, Grand Herald's upgraded, so we can afford to bring the fleet back together. Actually, crap. Okay. Still waiting for the tactical response. I think with the tactical response fleet, we'll upgrade them and then we'll... Oh, hang on. Are they already in here? Okay. We'll upgrade them and then we'll add them to the Grand Herald. So these were the replacements for my main fleet.
Construction finalized.
After Thabit, we will take the Menshib system just because it has volatile motes. Study the artifacts has advanced some of our research. How you doing, Ravenrest? So again, the aim here is going to be at some point once the terminal egress is... Oh, actually, we're already on our way to improvements. I think I'm going to do the... Wow! I gotta be very worried about the Akano Nation if this is how quickly they're able to dispatch the Great Khan. Great Khan Track is dead after her armada met with defeat a second time in the Yaval system. The Great Khan made no attempt to escape her flagship when it was destroyed in battle by the commune of Vislok. Oh no! So the reward goes to the rival that actually has got a stronger navy than I do. All right, the Great Khan Track is dead. After her armada met with defeat the second time in the Yaval system, the Great Khan made no attempt to escape her flagship when it was destroyed in battle by the commune of Vislok. With her beloved leader gone, a vicious power struggle has erupted in the Istran Horde. The Great Khan's warlords are now fighting each other for control over her empire. It remains to be seen who will emerge on top. So ends the reign of Track. Well, that was a very short-lived crisis, to be completely honest. So where was the Atral system? I want to see where... So we'll get back to the wiki in a minute. I want to see where this defeat happened. Because it looks like it's in... Oh, the Yavalsis. I think it was here. Yeah, there's not really any way that I could have made it. Oh, well... I'm assuming that they're going to have a pretty big hit on the leaderboard now. So the Zathorians are at number 1 because they're Federation. The Akano just leapfrogged me. What's their tech at? Okay, I definitely beat them tech-wise. Why are they so much higher than me? Oh, wow, that Federation's just really... really getting me. So the commune of Vislok, I still outdo them technology-wise. But the Zathorians, I'm assuming, have the tech I want to be worried about. Nope. Who was it? No, the Sondrathians then must have the... Oh, but we've actually done a pretty good job of closing that gap. Okay. So obviously I still want to do... Oh, and actually this is another thing I want to see about the victory log. Does it count? A crisis ship strikes me as... Yeah, that doesn't count. Or no, it was the commune that did it. Okay, no, that still doesn't count. Okay. So there's 2 goals that I have now. Oh, right. There was one thing I was going to check. So, relic... At this point, this is more about my curiosity, but the Khan's Throne, so minus 20% claim influence cost, triumph effect, plus 20% ship weapons damage for 10 years. Jesus. Yeah, the commune of Vislok is actually going to be a really tough one to get a grip on. The fact of the matter, this whole federation is actually going to be a problem, but... so my intermediate goals here are going to be, 1, deal with the crisis. Number 2, I need to find some kind of an answer about how to break up this federation. Are these guys a subject yet? No. Tempting. And I can sort of afford the spare fleets now. Oh, I still don't have a way... Oh no, yes I do have a way in because of the Fallen Empire. Okay, that gives me something to think about. How you doing, Sungif? Good to see you. Okay, we will get the tactical response fleet. We'll incorporate them into the Grand Herald.
Ships upgraded.
Then looks like the strategic
Construction
readiness
complete.
fleet is ready. Wait, oh no, that's derelict class. Never mind.
Construction complete.
Okay, so we'll turn this into a star fortress right away. Glabashi is finished. Okay, they've got 4 jobs left, but that'll take them up to 75, so I'm okay with that for now. Can you ask something that may evoke an emotional response? Go nuts, Sungif. I'm with an introduction like that, my curiosity alone is going to want to see where this goes. I need to figure out how I'm going to fill out the rest of these fleets, because now I've got sort of 40 points sitting idle. Right, so this is all heading to the terminal egress, that's fine. Okay, so last Friday you had a meeting with the social services, and it was pointed out to you that you are not disabled or handicapped, you are differently abled. Okay? Rule 3A. I guess we've already... Right, no, yeah, we just finished the terraforming. Okay, we'll definitely turn that into... You've been pondering this change in terminology since you're not a fan. There's actually, I don't know if you've ever heard of this comedian. His name's George Carlin. He actually has a whole bit on these kinds of changes in language. I feel a little less strongly about them than most do. I am actually quite a fan of George Carlin, but the thing is I've never really felt that I need stand-up comedians to sort of tell me how I should believe about particular things. Like I sort of get that they're doing a routine, and that does not necessarily mean that it should be turned into policy. I mean, so I think Carlin's point on this one is that apparently we're not allowed to say what we mean anymore, and to a certain extent I think that's right. Like basically to get past the unpleasantness of a particular observation or a particular condition or whatever, the language has been changed to something a little bit softer. The only real sort of question I have about that routine, though, is I'm not entirely sure what makes the term disabled any more natural than differently abled. So, I think the bigger thing, though, is I actually don't have any strong views on it. And I think more specifically as someone who is disabled or differently abled or whatever term you want to use, I kind of think your own feelings on this are a little bit more important than my own. So he said, now the origin of the term handicap is conjunction of the phrase hand in cap, which refers to, oh, I did not actually know that, Loaz bet in horse racing. You can probably argue that that's not the loveliest origin of the term to describe disabled people, but who even knows of that origin today? Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I will point out that if there is a term, so there's a term that somebody pointed out had its origin in sort of a racial stereotype, and they asked if I could stop using that. And the thing to me is that I kind of have enough of a lexicon that I don't need to worry so much about running out of words if people ask me to use different ones. In this case, I sort of think the priority of making my friends feel comfortable around me is a slightly higher one than me picking, the particular terms that I use. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard one, right? Like even if it's one that I consider as an innocuous term, but it turns out to have these really odious origins, I kind of prefer not using them. But again, like the degree of insensitivity on display is kind of important. Like racially motivated stuff is really repugnant for all sorts of reasons, and so I want to steer away from that. In a case of, an uncomfortable historical truth, well, maybe that's one that's a little bit harder for me to get on my high horse over. So it's very much a case-by-case thing. I'm going to take the fact that I've got a nice big energy savings to start converting some of these tomb worlds. I think we need 10,000 for the deals. I don't know when the next one's coming up. So Patron of the Arts for... Okay, so we've got a little while for the Curator Insight, but I also know that we've got a stack of energy credits. So let's just see if there's any more tomb worlds I can convert while I'm at it. So this one, I think... Oh, no. Well, that solves that. Meanwhile, Differently Abled has its origin in feminist and LGBT plus movement coming out of 1990s social science on the topic of ableism. I suppose your premise for this question or discussion is that humans think in words, so if you change the words or their meaning, you change the way that humans think.
Ships upgraded.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I could really say in response to that is... so again, I mean, like a lot of what you're talking about actually is in the Carlin routine. So again, I hate, I hate post-scripting the whole discussion with, C. Carlin, 1998 or whatever, whenever he did that. It probably wasn't 98, it was probably older than that. The only real thing that I have to say about it is that I don't really feel that it's some kind of 1984 sort of thought crime-ish sort of thing that's happening, for the reason that just because it has its origins in sort of political correctness. And I mean, a lot of the political correctness that people are opposing to from the 1990s is actually why I think a lot of the debates about political correctness now are probably a little more overblown, because the big thing is that like it got really annoying and ridiculous at a certain point, and clearly the only way that you know about the more excessive ones are through recordings on YouTube. Like this is where I found out about all this stuff, is like old Bill Maher episodes when he wasn't on HBO. You see people having pretty intense discussions about these issues, and it just seems so strange because it bears some resemblance to conversations we're having now. But it's very clear that the more excessive that it gets, the more it sort of sows the seeds of its own sort of implosion. So I find it really hard to get really upset by it, for the simple reason that, like I said, I think there's something to be said for, people policing every last jot and tittle on things that maybe don't matter that much. But on the other hand, I also think the term disabled, again, it just kind of comes down, if it's going to be sort of this natural use of language argument, I'm not entirely sure what's so natural about the term disabled. So, both of them in terms of the concept that I have in my mind, I'm very clear in terms of your personal status. But of course, on the other hand, like I said, as somebody who yourself identifies as a in that particular group, I should probably be a little bit more concerned in terms of how you personally think about those terms rather than my own thoughts about it. Oh yeah, no, Sungif, when I talk about, I mean, I'm just kind of talking in general, like, I realize that whenever you bring up the term political correctness, like this already has a number of connotations. It just seemed to be the most convenient analogy that I could draw. I don't think you're making an argument one way or the other in terms of that. Although again, like I also don't know the hand and cap term, so obviously you know a bit more about this than I do to begin with. Netami, being differently abled implies that you're different from other peeps, which you'll concede given the fact that you're a zebra, and abled implies that there's a choice there. You're disabled, and I think that's the term that you'd prefer. To you, all that disabled implies is some degree of physical limitation, and as frustrating as that is to me, that's the situation. Yeah, and I think that's a perfectly fair. I think that's a perfectly fair point to take. Like, my own view to this should say, like, you know, I don't really feel that my expression is being, you know, set upon. Like, let's say that I personally felt very strongly about the term differently abled to a point that I think that it should always be used. It kind of seems a little aggressive if I were to turn around and say, well, I don't care what you think. I'm just going to continue to refer to you as, you know, in this other certain term. So yeah, I mean, again, I guess I could put it to you this way. If, again, I'll invoke the Carlin presentation. If the aim is to make the limitation go away through changing the term, that's clearly impossible. The only way that the condition is going to go away is if there's some kind of medical breakthrough or technological breakthrough. And that's unfortunate, but that's kind of the reality. If, on the other hand, it's just a statement about... sorry, just 1 second. I need to get on top. Let me do... Hollow Theaters is a little tempting. Nah, Military Academy. But yeah, but on the other hand, I don't necessarily think that's what people are trying to do. Let me just sorry, I gotta catch up with chat. You looked up the words after being told you're differently abled. The thing I worry about is that people will think of you as different or having a choice in the matter. You're a huge proponent of using the terminology of the affected prefer. Yeah. Talwin Greenwood says there are a lot of things like that being discussed these days, but I'm having issues with the new term in this case. I think it has unfortunate implications. It says there's an active conversation in trans and non-binary communities about if the general public should avoid the whole start off referring to people as they until corrected or ask about pronouns. Yeah, I mean, so like I've been in the unfortunate situation when I was working in community services. Now I was quite young finalized at this point, but I had to work a case, and while it was not a trans person, it was actually very difficult to tell if who I was speaking to was a man or a woman. And in that case, I didn't necessarily mind just asking the question directly. As it turned out, this person came back at a separate time, and the person who was handling the file didn't look at sort of they thought it was a new one, so they just guessed and guessed wrong. So I think that probably created more awkwardness than failing to ask the question. I mean, I think the problem that I personally have run into on the alternative of just default to they is that at the moment, whether or not this is something that the world should change or not, the day-to-day reality for me is that if I start referring to people as they consistently, this is going to create a certain degree of frustration or offense, because the people who I'm more common to be encountering are going to prefer just this standard set of pronouns. This may change in my lifetime, and I don't actually have a particular stake in keeping it one way or changing it to another. But the terms that I use largely reflect the, sort of the most likely set of circumstances that I'm going to run into in my own life. Now again, like there's not necessarily anything just about that. There's no strong stance that I can really take one way or the other on that. I'm changing my colony in a box a little bit here just because we've got so many agricultural districts. I want to get the multiplier up on that as quickly as I can. But the best that I can say on this one for myself has always been that I leave myself open to correction if it really comes down to it. So, if I'm incorrect, I don't mind and I don't feel particularly set upon if somebody turns around and says, I would prefer to be called X. If somebody raises the issue in terms of saying, you should always ... there is always the open question in terms of whether or not it's worth stating your own position. Obviously, there's a time and a place for that sort of thing. And if somebody's just like, it'd be the same as if I said to any of you, like if I'm like, hey, I'm the streamer of this place, and I think every single one of you should be reading the Bible every day of the week. There's a very simple point where all of you can turn around and say, and, by what right? Like, who are you to tell me to do this? And you would be correct. So, but yeah, the best that I can say is, like, I feel, because I try and be thoughtful about these kinds of things, I feel like I could articulate my position as well as I could. And not in the sense of, like, I'm not going to have, like, a debate in the public square, because in the end, the stakes for me on this are very limited. But yeah, the best that I can say is that if somebody was acting in good faith, I'm not going to feel bad that they say, I would prefer it if you did X. And if, the end result of that is that they make a stronger statement in terms of, and in future you should do ... The circumstances under which that happens, it's actually entirely possible that this is the first time I've encountered someone like that, and that this is in fact, in general, how this subset of people that I'm now going to be interacting with would prefer me to behave. In this case, this is actually very good advice. But again, those are all based entirely on the individual circumstances. Where else was it? So Talman says non-binary people want it because it's really validating to them. Trans people are kind of against it, worrying about kind of invalidating their effort to put into passing as their preferred gender, or ending up as people going, okay, I think someone in this room looks trans. This is where I should ask pronouns. I can safely assume it otherwise. And of course, disclaimer, this is some non-binary people and some trans people discussing this, not all. Yeah. Sungive says, I was welfare a few years ago and had a client who preferred not to be assigned a gender. The welfare system consistently referred to them as he, despite it obviously causing him discomfort, and despite you getting their paperwork edited to reflect their preference in the address. It kind of pissed you off, honestly. It's as if an insurmountable effort for the representatives of the system to address the person, and yeah. I mean, I can sort of understand some old-fashioned system. I mean, like, in some cases, you really are at the mercy of the like, if your database only allows 2 options, you're kind of in trouble. But, that has a really direct solution. Like, update the system. Like, obviously, it's kind of weird to turn around and say, okay, well, because we don't want to spend the like $10 to, to change the data type, I guess we're just going to call you whatever we want. That seems unduly burdensome. Okay, we're going to start going on an adventure after the I think we'll boost up the evasion here. So I'm running a little bit of a risk here because obviously 4.8k is not the strongest thing I can be bringing to defend. On the other hand, this is a very strong fleet, so You can totally respect peeps aren't infallible, but I expect peeps to at least try. Yeah, I mean, and I think this is the biggest one for me. Like, so this is one of the reasons why I don't shy away from discussions like this on chat. Because, like, I don't exactly have anything really substantial to say on this issue, as you've noticed. And the discussion here has been largely a respectful one, right? It's, here is the following set of preferences that I have. Obviously, Sungif, your individual experience kind of matters here because, of course, you're the one being referred to in certain terms. So like I said, my general feeling on this one is that it's probably, you have a little bit more at stake in terms of that question, and as a result, I should probably be listening more rather than talking. But I've always kind of taken it as a view of trying to, try to act in good faith, try to be sort of empathetic at the very least in terms of what's going on. Occasionally I will say things that are dumb. And my general expectation, I guess the biggest thing is that my hope and my usual belief has been that sort of the whole idea of freedom of speech exists for the benefit of me being corrected when I am in error, so much as it is, me just being able to project opinions out. I already have a Twitch channel for that. And so it would be a little weird for me to turn around and say, okay, well, you know what? I'm not going to worry so much about, never mind about this, this whole thing. I actually know everything. You don't need to worry about correcting me because I got it all figured out now. Like, obviously, it's going to involve some times where I kind of feel like I'm being set upon, but it's on balance a very good mechanism that makes sure that I can improve as a person. And if this means that sometimes I need to hear somebody say things that I think are maybe a little silly about issues that I think are trivial, that's a pretty minor cost to pay. And of course, the fact that I think they're trivial doesn't necessarily mean that they are trivial. Sungif says, when you were welfare aide, there was no non-binary option on the books. People had a comment about it on the paperwork twice, and you saw them do it too. So the representatives of that system who supposedly read that person's files couldn't manage to address them properly. It visibly affected them in consequence. Yeah, I think. Well, this is just it. Like, at that point, you cease to just be making a mistake, and you are making a determination about whether or not the person's stated preferences are, are valid at this point. And I've never felt so strongly about the issue that I would refuse to take on a set of things. I mean, like, I'll be honest with you here, like the whole Apache attack helicopter thing, is people, I don't necessarily think people are being very sympathetic when they say that sort of stuff, but if somebody said to me, I want to be addressed as an Apache attack helicopter, provided it's the appropriate context. Like, obviously, if this is intended to be in an auditorium full of people and it's specifically designed to be me siding on to some, essentially anti or sort of antagonistic sentiment, that I'm clearly not going to do that. But like, if somebody was really insistent on it, I'm like, I don't have enough at stake here to really want to do otherwise. But that one's a little bit harder because obviously there's sort of implications behind that. But yeah, if that was what somebody wanted, that helicopter thing caused a couple people to assume we were pissing on them, identifying. Yeah, I know. That's kind of why I needed to backtrack a little bit on that statement, which is obviously there are implications behind that which are unsavory. So. Against all odds, the Istran horde has managed to weather the turmoil that followed in the wake of the death of the Great Khan. The immediate threat of splintering into different successor states has been largely eliminated with the coronation of a new Khan. For now, the reborn Istran Khanate seems more concerned with consolidation of the territory it already controls rather than making new conquests. We shall see how long they survive. But no, I see your point, and I see where you're coming from on that. But yeah, absolutely. Like, it's... maybe leaving aside the really famous example, I would say, like, if I were to have a completely invented pronoun, even if I thought somebody was pulling my leg, it just seems to me to be so much easier and so much more like conducive to people getting along and me being able to continue on with what I consider to be the substantive parts of the conversation, that I actually kind of think a very strongly stated opposition to them seems a little strange at this point. Because clearly, like for me, I sort of understand that the whole pronoun question is very automatic to me. And so as a result, I'm wanting to get onto the what I consider to be the substantive parts of the conversation, which is probably not really going to involve any issues of sex or gender. And of course, the usual disclaimers and apologies apply if I'm coming off as a completely ignorant jackass. All right. I'm a little at odds here about whether I want to hammer out some new cruisers or if I want to invest in my bases. I think what I'm going to do here is I will do 3 cruisers, and then I'm going to wait until it's done. Then I'll do another 3, and then I'll do 2, and that's going to be how I handle that. Hey, No Virtue. So we've got Bamboozle Ballet, we've got No Virtue themselves, and Talwyn's responding to the helicopter joke. One of the 2 jokes of the alt-right. Yeah, absolutely. Welcome everybody from No Virtue. No Virtue, I apologize if we have already run into each other, but I do not recall the name. I have to assume you were playing Stellaris? Maybe you weren't. I'm going to take a quick look at your profile and see exactly what's going on. My God. Okay. So apparently a lot of you are used to some quality gameplay because I am seeing a whole range of 2,600 plus hours at Grand Admiral difficulty. No Virtue. I am not that. I play this game very slowly and apparently talk about things completely unrelated to the game. But it's very kind of you to stop by this lowly little corner of Twitch. What else do we have here? There's a small stream recently with a handful of active chatters. You forgot the entire context, but somebody mentioned Eskimos. And I was like, with a smiley, pointed out that they prefer Inuit. I wasn't sure if there was ever a difference between the 2 groups, and this is shameful because I'm actually Canadian. But so No Virtue, what first got you into Stellaris, and how can I become a better player without specifically telling me individual actions? What made you put 2,600 hours into this game is maybe the better way of putting it. Okay. Right, sorry, I need to figure out what Vocon's doing as well. Vocon... Okay, so the threat of the Great Khan isn't there anymore, so it's kind of hard to argue for upgrading the space. I think we'll leave it for now. Heading to bed, so you're just dropping off some Stellaris fans over here. The challenge is quite fun, but you wish you could stay in time. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'd almost never stay for long after a stream. I hope you had a good one. Thank you very much for depositing your viewers here. Hopefully they're not too disappointed. And I hope you have a good one. I will be sure to try and check out your stuff moving along. Who was that who followed? That was No Virtue who followed. Thank you very much for the follow as well. And Bill says Eskimos prefer being called Eskimo and Inuit prefer being called Inuit. Eskimos are real people. Okay. Now, unfortunately, it looks like we're back to this old problem of the fleets arriving too late. So I suspect what's going to happen here is the Grand Herald's going to lose a bunch of ships for no reason. Okay, what's the butcher's bill? 2 destroyers, 2 cruisers. Okay, manageable. Looks like the mothership escaped, though. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take that opportunity to get... Where are my science ships? Let's take the science ship and start exploring the rest of the cluster. Looks like this guy's already on their way, so we'll send them to Zir instead, just because they'll probably get smooshed if they head anywhere else. I need to get... We'll do a fleet academy just because I'm producing so many new ships. This time, I hate to do this, but I think I'm just going to do 2 destroyers, 2 cruisers out of the normal batch. It's just, it takes too long to move them. Okay, let's... Again, I'm trying to take advantage of sort of the natural benefits of each world. At some point, the food processing facilities are going to come up. Betria is pretty much destined to become an agricultural planet.
Construction finalized.
Elor, what's going on with you? Looks like we were scared about... Right. Now I remember. Do I want to turn it into a citadel, though? Because that's going to cost almost all my alloys. I think at this point I'm just going to hang out a little bit on them. There does have to be some point where I put all of my alloys into properly upgrading all of these star bases, but for now I'm going to stick with... I'm going to stick with what I've got.
Construction finalized.
Superior 3A has been terraformed.
Special
Okay,
inquiry
Alpine World
concluded.
I'm fine with. The metallic orb has been opened up. Our hacking team has been able to use the outgoing signal as a gateway into one of the auxiliary CPUs of the sphere. We are receiving some data from it and can tell that it's been scanning the black hole in Gargantua for a very long time. It is old, very old. This constant calculator now lies within our grasp of understanding. If we push harder, we might find out what it's doing here and who built it. What marvels might it contain? You can try to hack the hard drive and take everything. There's always a self-destruct switch. Find it, or let's contact the main processor unit. Hello, hello. Nice to meet you. Hello? It's quite enjoyable to pass the time with pleasantries. We hope the rest of your kind it's not like you were when you did not take kindly to small talk. You see, we don't get to enjoy conversation much anymore. Few are well versed enough in the finer points of quantum programming to reach us, so thank you. We are the Infinity Machine. Your words, not ours. Ours has not, or has that not happened yet? Either way, it will eventually. Trust us. What are you? We are what we are, the ones who calculate. You call us the Infinity Machine, or will at least. 'Tis not a truthful name, but it is well suited to highlighting the ingenuity of our design. We will tell you our history now, as we've done many times before. Oh right, we need to convey it in words. That's new. Or is it? It is hard to keep track of you all. We were constructed in the crudest sense of the word in order to solve a problem. We solved it, then we needed more problems to solve. We now only have one left. I will do my best to answer the question, Sungif, but I do want to get a little more of the gameplay in because I've spent a little while talking about this already. So if you can just give me a second, I'll get through the material and I'll do my best to answer the question that you're posing. Wish to know your purpose here. We are calculating infinity. No more, no less. Or actually, it is way more and way less. That's the problem right there. We understand that your manner of life form wouldn't understand, but that's all right. You never will, and we apologize. Or maybe we will do eventually. We are here to solve the infinity conundrum, the last calculation to ever be. The lone problem to take hold of our processors for more than a fraction of a galactic year. In case you haven't discovered that calendar yet, it's a very long time. For your kind, at least. This statement is false. It's tricky. I mean, I am mildly xenophobic, but that doesn't mean I want to destroy. I'm not like a fanatical purifier. Can we assist you in your research? Perhaps. We could finish about 7.51 times 10 to the power of negative 9% if we could borrow your most advanced processing unit as well as your brightest minds. We would be satisfied in finishing faster. We wish to know the answer. We will allocate resources to you.
Sit log updated.
You already did. Or maybe that was the ones who came before. It matters not. The task shall finish. We are excited. But yeah, so I mean, Sungif, it's hard not to disagree with what you say there in the sense that obviously, like, I'm a huge fan of Orwell. I think like 1984 is a lot more interesting if you consider the use of language to sort of adjust people's thoughts rather than some sort of manual in terms of how to make a particularly unpleasant police state. So it's kind of hard not to say that, language doesn't affect thinking. Obviously, language is a way that language is a means of communication, so clearly it's going to have some kind of a shape in terms of how we discuss things. Now, I think the problem with that is, especially when it comes into the context of, somebody used a term that I disagreed with. I think the only challenge that people will have with that statement in general is that generally that sort of thing tends to be a kind of the host for a whole other set of beliefs that maybe they don't necessarily agree with. So usually at a certain point in the conversation, it ceases to be about whether or not language has a role in shaping thought, so much as whether or not you support the current president of the United States or something along those lines. Which is not, just to be clear, not necessarily what I think you're trying to do here. But I think that is where some of the challenge comes. It's less about the idea about whether or not the words we use shape our thoughts, but it's more so the idea that that particular argument has been used in the service of some maybe not repellent ideas. I mean, obviously it sort of depends in terms of what people are talking about. But usually I think people are a little bit more hesitant to give assent to a statement like that because normally it's sort of the beginning of a particular line of thought that they don't want to follow. Sort of the way that you said that you didn't particularly like being called fascist in a certain chat. I think people have a reasonable sort of desire not to have the conversation turn to negative places, and so they sort of avoid the view. Yeah, and I mean, like, when it comes down, I don't personally use the term differently abled, but I also don't use the term disabled very often because the number of conversations I have about it is very small. But knowing your preference with regards to preferring to be called disabled, certainly that's how I would address you. But of course, this is a little academic in my own particular case because it's, so far as I can tell, not really relevant to the kinds of conversations we tend to have on the stream. Usually we tend to talk about games and ideas, and in those particular cases, it hasn't been a matter to come up. So in this situation here, it costs me nothing, and it's, to address you in the terms that you want. For trade to truly flourish within our borders, government meddling in our internal markets must be kept to a minimum. There's a political statement for you. Empire trade value increased by 10%. Yeah, so I mean, I guess I could put it to you this way: like, if you're trying, if your aim on this was to get me to say you're right, and this should be generalized into, into behavior for everyone, that's a little bit of a harder one for me to assent to, just because as you say, anecdata, but I don't consider you to be sort of the representative of the Danish people, and specifically the Danish community of people who have some form of disability or whatever the differently abled equivalent of the term. Like, again, like, all of the terms are ones I'm unfamiliar with other than disabled. So my natural inclination is just to use the terms that I sort of grew up using. But the thing about it is that beyond the purposes of this conversation, it's not something that I've put terribly very much thought into. And so in this case, I'm going to be largely driven by the terms that other people are using. And I think the people who have a stake in it are the ones who need to be heard on it. And whether or not they prefer disabled or differently able. Like, I'm assuming that whoever came up with the alternative term had some good reason as to why they thought it was more appropriate. So, at the very least, I'd kind of like to hear their reason for it. But because you said that you're uncomfortable with it, I've got a very clear indicator in terms of how I should personally be using the term myself. Obviously, it would not be my intention to use a term that you were uncomfortable with.
Construction finalized.
But the only problem is, the reason why that's a mild statement is that ultimately it is the same mechanism that prevents me from saying, you're right, Sungif, and everybody else should do that. Because if someone were to turn around and say the exact same things that you just said right now, but on the other side of it, I'm in a particularly difficult situation. Then I need to kind of come up with something else that I can use as bedrock. All right. So my full fleet's back. What I might consider doing here is actually taking the science ship. Oh, this is a tough call, actually. Right, because the science ship doesn't give me a glimpse at any of the other systems.
Construction finalized.
All right, this will be a fairly straightforward one. I figure we can probably put another military academy
Construction
down.
complete.
All right. Craxima has been claimed. Grand Herald's repaired. Mublar. We're already building the military academy, so that's fine. Kenti trade unions continuing to expand. Alvis finished its 3 cruisers, so we'll get those next 3 up. So these are just joining the First Stellar Fleet as usual. I'm trying to be a little bit more balanced in terms of how I'm using my alloys now. Obviously, I've got some spare naval capacity, so first thing I'd like to do is build another full fleet, and then I'll sort of fill out the remaining ships. Now, what I'm mildly tempted to do here is to take these ships. And I'm a little tempted to go... Actually, no, here's what I want to do. Now, am I not able to assign them to something different? Drat. Okay, here's what I'm going to do instead. Nope, they're already making replacements. Never mind. So... There's got to be a way I can, like, kick this guy. There we go. Okay, so I have to have somebody on the ship to... Good to know. So yeah, I guess maybe the trick here is I find the lowest level scientist to stick on this ship, and I just send them into the void again.
System resources analyzed.
This kind of sucks because I'm almost guaranteed to lose this ship at some point. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. We will take the... Oh, he's a genius too. Well, you know what? They're all really good at what they're doing. All right, let's just get this over with. If we're gonna go hunting the Nanites, we should probably be honest about it.
Construction finalized.
Sosta Prime. Okay, we're good. Yeah, and I'm reading what you're saying, so I just don't. I didn't have anything in particular to say to the last batch there. I'm not ignoring you, but if there's something that you say that you're looking for a specific reply from for me, do let me know, because I don't mind. I don't mind responding on it, but
science vessel under
this is what I hate. I'm assuming that I'm just going to lose this guy.
Science vessel destroyed.
So I have to go through all the effort of getting a replacement. Oh, I didn't realize that this one was damaged. I think we'll just send everyone back to where they need to go.
Construction complete. Together we will build a brighter future.
Okay. I don't think I have any better options in terms of how to deal with the systems. What I might try is just sending my fleet like to the Tarnak and the Sastranas system and all that. Like I might send each of those. Excuse me. See, the really weird thing about this is how they all should be moving at about the same speed. Anyways, so what I might do is I might just send my guys out to Sastranas and Tanrak to see see what waits me there, or waits for me there, and we move. Like, I'm just gonna have to get a succession of science ships to see like what horrors await me, and just hope that I find the system with the bomb in it. Yeah, no worries. I hope I didn't turn anybody off from that discussion. I mean, normally the way that I find out that I screwed up is that Stellaris video at random will just get like a thumbs down. And I'm assuming that it's the discussions that cause that. Maybe it's just I don't play the game fast enough. But yeah, I mean, like I said, for this sort of stuff, I do enjoy discussing it insofar as I like getting other perspectives. The only thing I get a little self-conscious about is usually when chat goes silent. It makes me think that I've either said something wrong, or it makes me think that I've alienated a group of people who would just rather me stop talking about that particular thing. But I always kind of figure people can speak up in those times. So, oh, thank you, Sungift. That's kind of you to say. Although, of course, I have only one small part of that compliment that I can take. These highly advanced fusion-powered thrusters provide ships with unmatched maneuverability and speed under sublight conditions. I am very tempted to go for Titans, even though it's very expensive. It's an investment in our future. I'm going to need to do a bunch of upgrades for that, but that's kind of the last... I mean, other than maybe a Colossus, but I figure a Colossus is going to be... That's its own set of issues. Okay, Old Albania's got unemployment. Who's unemployed and why? So I'm tempted to send them to these colonies. I think the best colony would be Ninjil. Only reason for that is Ninjil is in my tech. It's in my tech sector, and so basically the faster I can get this thing up and running, the faster I'm going to have scientists. Do I want to spend volatile motes? I don't think I do. Maybe at some point, but... You've been pondering something else entirely as well recently, but again, you're unsure if you could bring it up. Well, tell you what, Sungif, I think a decent point to hit is you can feel free to bring up whatever's on your mind.
System resources analyzed.
I'm not going to say that like everything is permitted, but I think... I don't know. I feel like it's a tolerant enough group that we can handle most things. So long as you don't get too upset if I say, maybe we can table that for another time, or maybe that's not appropriate for this chat. Bring it up if it's on your mind. The only thing is, like, if I start seeing, the viewer count go down and there's like no more activity in chat after one thing comes up, I might sort of put the cap in the pin back in the grenade for a little bit, just because, there is also a stream to this thing. It's not just a podcast. As much as I'm sure it will shock people to hear me say that, because obviously I talk a lot. We're all Satanists here? Are we all Satanists here? I'm definitely an equal opportunity jackass, so Okay, so we've got the 8 corvettes, so it'd be 19 destroyers next, but we're a little short on alloys, so I think I'm just gonna let the cruisers go by, and then we'll get some upgrades in on my main fleets. Speaking of strategic readiness fleet, you're due. This is a solo cruiser. What's the deal with this one? Oh, that's right. Its tactical response fleet is due to reconnect with the Grand Herald. I'm genuinely curious what the deal is with all these... Oh, it's because... That's right. That's telling. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move to the terminal egress. That'll hopefully buy us a bit of time while these guys get into position. We might get caught
System
by the tail
resources
end of that.
analyzed. Our research has progressed.
Auto-curating vault. Continuous asynchronous analysis of disparate data sets allow for the accurate modeling of hitherto unpredictable fluctuations in social currents. Do space dwarves have beards? Asking for a friend. Oh yeah, that's not an offensive point to bring up, Sungif. That's fine. Thrall, do space dwarves have beards? Excellent question. As you can see, the space dwarves do have beards. I believe our queen actually has a mighty handsome pair of mutton chops. I think we'll just go for the habitability on this one, just because it's the cheapest. And I actually wanted the really cool looking Persian beards, but the haircut looked kind of stupid, so we went without it. But here is High Queen Merg the First, and if it's not clear for everyone, let's just go to the video. I am gonna regret doing this, so we'll just. Oh, will it not let me? Damn you. Okay, unlock. There we go. Oh, no. Oh! Okay, well, what I was originally going to do was, like, zoom in really close, but yes, Space Dwarves probably have more beard than what you'd like to see. If you're curious, by the way, again, I read this before, but for those of you wondering about the species, we are currently the Acano variatus, the cyborg version of the Acano. But this is the story of Harrison Jones, High King of Old Albania. No artifact was safe from Jones, and even the most ingenious engineers of ages past could not develop a mechanism that would confound his brilliance. Through his legendary exploits, Jones united the quarrelsome tribes and set his sights on new secrets and the treasures buried within. The Acano people of Old Albania are now reaching out to the galaxy in their stone ships, continuing the great work of the High King. No tomb is safe, and no civilization will remain untouched. Actually, this will probably be. Here's our milady. So the Acano variatus have an alpine preference. They're cybernetic, industrious, natural engineers, traditional, strong, and non-adaptive. And their current government is an enlightened monarchy. They are xenophobic, militarist, and materialist. And they have a Byzantine bureaucracy, philosopher king, and distinguished admiralty. My justification for the Byzantine bureaucracy is basically that if you want to get any kind of government documentation, from a passport to a driver's license, you first need to be consulted in the great database of grudges, and all scores will be settled. So, Curator Research Aid. The agreement you signed giving you access to our databanks has run its course. Would you like to extend it for another 10 standard years, or do your researchers no longer require the information we offer? We would like to extend the deal. Excellent. Our databanks shall remain available to your scientists. So again, we're trying to buy a little bit of time here while this fleet makes its way to the system. It probably won't all arrive on time. But I'm doing my best just to make sure that everybody's sort of in position for when the fight comes. This thing might get it in the throat, though. All right. So they're changing course. So what we'll do here... All right. The good guys will arrive just in time. Oh, dude, you do not want to be taking point on that. Man, it's been a while since I've had pirates. We knew that they were going to come at some point, but our trade route in the Lando system is poorly protected and passes through what has largely become lawless space. An increasing number of pirates, smugglers, and various other criminal elements have been drawn to the system, and now they raid our shipping with near impunity. They must be dealt with. Alright. Fortunately, they are really close, so not quite strong enough for the amoeba to come after them, but obviously we want to see how the nanites turn out, though. I'm slightly nervous that we're going to lose some ships off of this, but... Oh man, there's a 2 fleet. Yeah, we definitely need these guys to get in the fight as soon as possible. Alright, that's not surprising that... Oh, looks like the cruiser actually got away in time. That's lucky.
Construction complete.
It's going to be a little bit of a clown show because of the fragmented fleets.
Construction complete.
Again, as we usually do, we'll take a look at the butcher's bill at the end and see if it was worth it. Okay, so we lost destroyer, cruiser. Ooh, that was actually pretty heavy for the... And sadly, we didn't take out any motherships. That's the real shame. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm running into the problem where I can never keep track of the stuff that that we need to replace. So, destroyer, cruiser. Okay, so 6 cruisers. We'll get those on order right away. Oh, can't afford them. All right. I'll keep that up as long as I can.
Construction complete.
I think... So again, the priority is still to build up this defensive position. Oh, I'm still paused. Knowing what I know now, I'm actually going to explore...
Hostile reactionaries detected.
Yikes! Okay, we got to be really careful about how we handle this now.
Mining operation lost.
What are you guys doing? I want to get the fleet together before... Okay, that's fine. How far are these guys away? 3 days, okay. So again, I don't want to lose the base, but if we can get the base involved in the fight, that's better. So we are probably going to wind up losing quite a few more ships than I would like. Oh god, no.
Construction complete.
Oh, this is going to suck. These are supposed to be the replacement ships.
Finalized. The march of progress has been delayed, but not stopped. Construction finalized.
All right, another battleship, destroyer, cruiser, 2 defense platforms, and a... Okay. Let's just get repairs done. And I'm going to make a new fleet template knowing that we're going to get Titans before too long. Okay, not all the raiders are gone, but this at least has given me a temporary reprieve. I'm shocked that the Lando system is such a hive of scum and villainy. So I think what we'll do here, everybody's going to heal up. Actually, so while I'm working on this, so... Okay, they're okay. The Alvis Starbase has finished its construction queue. I mean, it kind of makes sense for me to build all the replacements on Alvis because they get the experience bonus. Hopefully everybody's repairing like they should be. The tactical response fleet can already incorporate into the Grand Herald. Okay, I'm going to take a quick minute. I'm going to, again, so this is not a very sophisticated way of thinking about fleets. Oh, that's right. I've also got upgrades that I can do. So we're actually going to change our stance on this. So Titan gets kicked out for now. And this is the Zealot class escort, so they can hang out. Okay, so the Titan, which is not quite the novelty it used to be. What's going on here? I'm slightly nervous that I just took the wrong... Oh no, okay, I see what happened. I'm slightly nervous that the wrong group was going back to the capital world, but that's not the case. And I got an idle construction ship because I just got too distracted, so let's get some mining research down. We'll fill in... Ah, and I'm out of alloys for borders. Okay, so... I'll be honest, I wasn't actually expecting to be out of resources at this point.
Construction finalized.
I think at some point I need to make a construction ship.